The first step in any project is to generate concept sketches. These are just quick ideas, the purpose being to get us focused in one direction. In this case, my client chose what I called a monolith design, even though there are a few monoliths there. It'd be made out of steel and wood, so I built a 1/4-inch scale model to better visualize the final piece. This was much better than a sketch. We could actually see what it was going to look like from any direction. The solid wood supports needed to be shaped from large rectangular blanks. And rather than start from a single large chunk, I decided to make the blanks out of smaller pieces glued together. Even though this is considerably more work, this would greatly reduce the chance of warping, which happens quite often in our extremely dry mountain climate. The large blanks were then cleaned up, and the angled facets were cut to allow for proper positioning against that central steel piece. Some of the facets were cut by machine and others by hand. The stainless steel components were made from 14 gauge sheet stainless welded together to get the proper shape. I had both a central piece and a smaller piece to do out of steel. When all the parts were made, the method of attachment had to be figured out. The assembly needed to be able to withstand the weight of a 4-foot diameter, 1/2 inch thick glass top without buckling. I decided on bolts that were epoxied into the wood and bolted through the large metal centerpiece. Next came the tedious process of leveling each component and the structure as a whole. This was quite a process. I couldn't do it the normal way that I do a table of assembling everything and then leveling the legs because of the veneer that was going to go on the wood. Each piece had to be done separately, so it's grind a little here, shape a little there, put a shim here and there, and finally I got it leveled. The short leg that holds the calcite ball had to have a cavity routed into the top so the ball would fit down into it. Since the wood supports were made of smaller pieces, there were many joint lines, and I just didn't like that. I didn't want these lines distracting from the overall simplicity of the piece. So I needed to use a mahogany veneer, so it's mahogany veneer over solid mahogany legs, and I used a reactivated glue process. The glue dries and then I heat it up to actually adhere it to the wood. And then after this step, everything was put together. A finish was put on the wood. The final side was attached to the central metal piece, ground and polished, and we ended up with our table.